Hi, this is Ashley Victoria Robinson coming to you live from the Popverse here at New York City Comic Con, and I am here with a Chicago legend who has now taken it to the world, the king of horror, Rich Koz, aka Svengoolie.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. We've been having a heck of a time here. It's been so busy, and we were just watching the people filing in, and as my director Chris was saying, it looks like schools of fish moving through the ocean with so many people.
Have you had a chance to speak to anyone on the floor and engage with the fans?
Oh yeah, we've been doing signings at the MeTV booth, and we have to cut the line because there's so many people in line. And we did 2 signings yesterday, and today we do 2 more. And it's just really great because first of all, I'm always impressed that people actually thank me for still doing this. And it's my job, what can I say? But it means something to them, and that's really important to me.
And you're also running the Spawn of Svengoolie talent hunt project here. Have you been able to see some of people's offerings?
Not yet.
Okay.
They've come by and said, hey, I just auditioned, which is cool. The whole idea was we wanted to kind of expand the Sven universe, as it were. And there are so many people who come up to me and they say, you really influenced me. And, they're performers, or they want to be performers. So we thought, why don't we try this and see what they've got.
Have you seen any Svengoolie cosplayers here?
Yes. We had one yesterday that especially stood out. He really looked a lot like me, except he was taller. Everybody's taller than me.
Except me. He's coming for your job.
Oh, okay. Well, when you wear the hat, you're taller. So
I see. The hair, too. Really pumps it all up. I know we're here in New York, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about being a Chicago performer and your Chicago roots, and that was such a huge part of the audience for so long. Now you're all over the world taking over on Saturday nights, but how do you keep Chicago and that original audience with you as you keep growing the brand?
Well, basically, we haven't changed the show that much from what it was when we were just on in Chicago. We dropped, like making fun of local anchors at the newscasts and, some of the local references, but it's still the same feel as what we did in Chicago alone. So, it hasn't changed much, and the people in Chicago still understand it. And of course, when I bring up the suburb of Berwyn, people always pick up on that. That's been a tradition since I started. And, we still throw that in. And the funny thing is, there are several Berwyns all over the United States.
Oh, really?
So people like in Pennsylvania are going, yes, he's talking about us, yay.
And you say, yes, I am.
Yeah, I go, of course. Well, where else?
Why wouldn't I? You've also harnessed the power of social media. I see hashtag Svengoolie trending every Saturday night. Has that changed the way that you approach the show or the way that you approach speaking to the audience?
No, not really. Because the way I talk to the audience is something that I learned a long time ago in radio as well. You're talking to one person, and that person is the viewer. And it's not like you're in front of a large crowd going, ladies and gentlemen, that sort of thing. It's the one-on-one contact. And I learned that I was in radio also, and it always paid off, and people seem to take to that. So, it's still the same thing, basically.
Having worked in radio, what is more challenging, being on screen or just using the power of your voice?
Definitely being on screen, because when I was on radio, you could create all sorts of things without having to have makeup or sets or anything else. And TV is, first of all, takes time to put this on. Not that it's really makeup, no, but it's a little more challenging, and to try to make things work, and to be more than just somebody standing there and talking. To keep it more entertaining.
Does getting into all of the regalia, the mindset, aligning the chakras, do you have that down to a science now?
I'm pretty well forced into it, yes. But yeah, it's always kind of been the same. I always tell people that my character is just a slight, amplification of the person that I really am. So, I'm still me when I'm doing this stuff.
So when you go out into the civilian world, when we're not at New York Comic Con or broadcasting, can you really look at rubber chickens the same way?
No. I always look at them the exact same way. I always feel at any minute they're going to be hurtling towards me.
I love the idea of a small child carrying a rubber chicken down the road and you'd be like, oh God, no.
Yes, it frightens me just thinking about it.
Speaking of little children, it is October, it is Halloween time, and you have shepherded generations now of horror viewers into the genre and exposed us to a lot of films that are not, quote unquote, as mainstream.
Yes.
Even with streaming service now. What is that like, that responsibility that you have gifted all of us now.
Well, I think it's really important for you to understand the whole history of horror cinema. A lot of the Universal classics that we run, before we were showing those nationwide, in some markets, it had been over 20 years since they were actually over broadcast TV there. So it's re-educating some people on what, the whole horror foundation was built on. And it's kind of cool to be that and to be introducing people to things that they never thought about looking for, or even when they're online. So yeah, it's educational, which I'm sure nobody believes with me in here.
You never thought you were going to be a teacher?
No, never.
If you could make one recommendation, one movie for everyone to check out this October, what would that be?
Oh, are you talking about scary wise or just movie overall?
Just overall, yeah.
Well, a nice one that blends comedy and horror is Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
So good.
It's really good. Another one like that, Beetlejuice. I think that's great, and I think there's some quick scare shocks in that are really perfect. So yeah, I'd start with those.
Excellent. Now, I would love to ask you, as a host, and to everybody out there who wants to be a presenter or an entertainer, what is your best advice on how to present an interesting character? And if you could give me some tips on longevity, I'd be very grateful for that as well.
Well, it's something I talked about earlier. If you're playing a character, a lot of times it helps to use some of your own personality and just amplify it or take it in a slightly different direction than what you really are. And also, believe what you're doing. You have to believe what you're doing. As far as longevity, I couldn't tell you. When I started this 43 years ago, I never was thinking, yes, in 43 years, I'll be on national television. No, it never worked like that. I was lucky to have a job at the time. I thought, wow, I'm doing a TV show. This is so cool. I wasn't thinking beyond the next few weeks. So just, do what you do and do it as well as you can. And again, try to relate to the audience.
So I know that you said that you're presenting the character in the show the same way that you always did, but what was the transition to MeTV like? How has that been, finding your new home there with an even bigger audience than ever before?
Well, it was kind of intimidating, thinking that, we're doing fine in Chicago, but everybody grew up, it seems, in their market with some sort of horror host. And I always equate it with Doctor Who, because most people, the first Doctor they ever saw, that's their favorite.
Wait, who's your favorite Doctor?
Tom Baker.
Ah, good answer.
No. But I thought the same thing with horror host, because you think you're not as good as Dr. Coffin Nails, you suck. So, and we're very fortunate. People have taken to it, but that was my main worry, that people would keep comparing me to whoever was in their market, and it's turned out to be favorable.
So favorable that now you're here breaking into new mediums.
That's
we
right,
saw the announcement that you are now coming to the world of comic books.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
It's pretty fascinating. 3 or 4 years ago, Dan DiDio was in charge of DC Comics.
Love Dan.
Yeah, and he was a big fan of our show. And so we decided to do Svengoolie meets the DC Universe. And it was very cool with, the whole Justice League. And I was thrilled because I got to, write gags and plot things for it. And, time has passed. Dan now has a new relationship with Frank Miller. And they're starting Frank Miller Presents. And Dan said, you know what we should do? We should do another Svengoolie book or two. And, that's tremendous. I'd love to do that. So I'll get to do a lot more writing on this one, and we'll see how it goes. It should be mid next year that it comes out.
Exciting. So you're going full, do you write full script? Are we going Marvel style? How deep are you in the process yet?
We don't know yet.
Fair.
I'm going to write it kind of the same way I write the TV show.
Yeah.
And we'll adapt from that.
Cool. So then I would be also remiss if I didn't ask you what some of your comic influences are. Who are some great writers or characters that you really love?
Well, the guys I loved were like Jack Kirby.
OG.
And a lot of the Stan Lee stuff. And then, in DC, I really didn't know who some of the writers were at the time, but those were the first superhero type comics that I started reading. And, it all got absorbed along the way, and now hopefully I can make use of it.
It's going to make it onto the page.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, my last question, because here in the Popverse, we celebrate the best in TV, movies, and comics. What are you geeking out about right now that you're not working on?
Actually, I liked that sitcom on CBS, Ghosts.
I love Ghosts.
And I actually found the British version too, and saw like a season of that. And I think it's a lot of fun. It's very creative, and I really enjoy it. So I'm hoping they'll keep going for a while.
Master of Horror, Svengoolie, Rich Koz. Thank you for joining us today here at New York Comic Con in the Popverse.